Hello, we're rolling into another episode of the DRH show. As usual, in each episode, I'll be talking to interesting people within psychology, mental health, and well-being. My brilliant guest for today is a meditation expert and founder of Be.modern meditation, Laura Coleman. Thanks for joining me.
Oh, you're welcome. It's great to be here.
Okay. It's lovely to come across with different people doing all sorts of different things. Just the other day, I was talking to a psychotherapist in London, and you're actually the first person that I'll be talking to about who's an expert in meditation. So if you could just give me a quick snapshot of your life, tell us how you came to be doing what you're doing, and also tell us a bit about your company.
Sure, absolutely. Well, my journey with meditation started about 6 years ago. So I sat in my room and wrote in my journal the words, "I'm nothing."
Mm-hmm.
And it was a moment of really stark reality. I had gone from having a corporate career and really successful corporate career, and then I had two children very close together. And as a family, we moved to Australia with my husband's job. So I became a stay-at-home mum. And on the outside, everything looked great because I was project managing a house build. I was really involved with the school and the children's lives. But inside, I was really struggling. And looking back, I think I was suffering from depression and actually anxiety as well. But I just didn't recognize that. What I felt was this extreme difficulty just getting through the day, leading and culminating in that moment of writing those words. And I think that I felt those words so strongly at that moment that it was almost like a shock. It was, firstly, if I'm really feeling that way, if it's really true, that's really bad. But also, if it's not true, how awful that I feel that way. So it was almost like it was a sort of a wake-up call of something needs to change because I'm not happy, I'm not enjoying my life, and I'm struggling. And I came across meditation by chance, really. And it became, what I found was it became this scaffolding to allow me to see my life differently and experience my life differently. And it sparked a journey of, so I studied psychology and mindfulness and acceptance commitment therapy. But what I kept looping back to was that the fundamental piece for me in all of that transformation of my life was the meditation, because it allowed me to experience things differently, and it reconnected me. So when we moved back to the UK in 2018, I'd over the course of that journey of doing all of that exploration and learning, I became really passionate about wanting to help other people who were in that stuck place for whatever reason. And I realized that meditation was going to be the fundamental piece of that puzzle for me. So I then trained to teach meditation. And then the program that I created at Be.modern meditation it pulls from the psychology, the neuroscience of meditation, as well as the acceptance commitment therapy and those practical meditation techniques to not just teach people how to meditate, but actually how to embed it and integrate it into your life so that you can change your experience of your life and ultimately build a life that's meaningful for you. So that's really what was behind the impetus behind creating Be.modern meditation.
So basically, it just came from a personal experience, and it comes now as your mission to help other people who have undergone the same experience as you.
Yeah, I think. Well, I was just going to say that it's. I think so many people now are, stress is itself is a pandemic. We're all struggling with that. And actually the way that manifests and the way it does to your life, we all need ways to find different ways of processing that stress so we can thrive.
Yeah, so it's not just coronavirus, which is a pandemic, but it's also a stress. Well, for the benefit of those who are watching this, we're recording it 12th of March. So that's why we talk about pandemic.
Those words are kind of top of our mind right now, and let's hope that things are going to ease off from here. Yeah.
Okay, but Laura, who do you actually work with? Is it usually business people, or is it just people who tend to be more at risk of stress? Who do you work with?
It's a combination. It tends to be, I suppose, the common thread is it's people who are high achieving, usually under a lot of stress and pressure, so often corporate. And they are, as I was actually, often I find is that they are outwardly, they're ticking all the boxes, but maybe they're starting to experience health issues, or they are experiencing difficulties in their life as a result of stress and pressure. Maybe they're not sleeping. So there's usually some kind of trigger that means that they go, do you know what, I need to do something, or even just that vague unease. So that's the sort of the sort of profile. I also get a lot of people who are who have gone through some kind of life transition. So maybe they've been mums and they're coming through their side, or their children are leaving home, or they're for men, it's men who are kind of almost at that midlife kind of transitioning into a new phase. But I also go into corporate environments as well. So I deliver workshops. I've delivered workshops at Ernst & Young and at construction firms, at architects. So I guess the common thread is, people experiencing stress at a high level. So it's quite varied.
Now, I'd like to touch upon the kind of people that you work with, because you mentioned that you predominantly work with people in the corporate, on corporate, and these are the kind of people who are busy and they've got lots of they've got lots of thoughts on their mind. So, how can they actually squeeze in meditation in that kind of lifestyle?
Well, that's a really good point you make, because actually I suppose when I first talk to people about meditation, there's kind of one of four responses usually. So it's either I've tried it and I'm no good at it, because my mind won't stop thinking, or it's I don't have time, or it's just not for me, or it's a bit woo-woo, it's a bit out there. And the first two are the ones that are really interesting, because one of the things that people believe about meditation is that it should be a relaxation experience, that it should make you feel calmer, that it should be this moment of tranquility. But in reality, often during a meditation practice, what you're actually doing is turning inwards and experiencing whatever states are there, and trying to do that in a non-judgmental way, to just allow yourself to experience it. And if you're under a lot of pressure and stress, when you first start to meditate, your mind will kick in with all sorts of thinking, and you're starting to witness what's already there. And so that sense of whoa, it's just too much, this isn't going to work for me. What I actually take people through is the neuroscience of what is actually happening in the brain when you meditate, and actually the fact that when it doesn't have to feel relaxing for it to be doing the job. So you're actually training that capacity to pay attention and to let go of, and to sort of down-regulate from stress. And that training, a bit like going to the gym, doesn't always it can feel like really hard work sometimes. Well, meditation's the same. You can actually, but when you open your eyes, that's when you go, I feel lighter, and you start to sleep better, you start to respond better, and you have this space. And the second point there around, I just haven't got time to fit it in. One of my big passions is giving people a layered practice and guiding them through, so that as little as 5 minutes a day, you can make a difference to the way that your body is experiencing stress. It can be that small amount of time, and you create that breaker circuit in the stress response, so that you can turn chronic stress into lots of acute stressors, rather than one continuous band of stress. And the impact on the body is obviously very different in two scenarios. So and the final strand to that kind of timepiece is teaching people ways and that they can create micro moments in their day, and giving them techniques that actually are really effective, but also really straightforward, beyond not trying to just pay attention to the breath, or there are some really useful things that are very obvious and out there, but actually when you guide people and work and personalize it to them, you can really make it work for their life exactly as it is. And that for me is the key.
I've never really done meditation myself, so I think people like in my situation would actually be interested. Like, what can we actually derive from meditation in relation to our mental health and well-being?
So what sort of the benefits would be?
Yes.
Yeah. I guess I've already talked about some of the things that I've experienced, but there's a lot of physical benefits. So, around reducing your in terms of your heart health, even. But the in terms of mental health, one of the biggest things you create is space between you and the things that are happening. So rather than being reactive and operating from that, something happens, I react. What you build is this capacity to be the witness of that. So something happens, I know somebody cuts you up in traffic, or you're stuck, you're on a busy commuter train, or you have a work deadline come in. And rather than experiencing that as an immediate thing that you need to react to, you start to experience that you have time to react, you have time to pause and respond. And it's a really powerful shift when you start to be able to create that space, because you actually start to then experience your day-to-day very differently. And you can start to, so I've had clients who have experiencing massive stress in their work lives, suddenly finding that things are flowing more effortlessly because they have this breathing space. So they can actually respond to what's really going on in front of them, rather than the stories that are playing out in their head about what's going on.
And obviously, you've been working within meditation for quite a long time, and you've also encountered a lot of people who quite, shall we say, ambivalent about meditation. So what are the common myths that you've come across in relation to meditation?
Yeah. So the common ones are that you need to be able to empty your mind. That's the biggest one. We've already talked about that. A second one would be that you need a special spot to sit. You need to create, you have a special cushion, a special corner with your lighted candle and, beautiful music. The reality is, meditate on a train, meditate on a bench, meditate in your car, and free yourself from the need for meditation to be a special, like, silent place. Because actually, when you change your mindset about it and see it as, actually, I can create the conditions for meditation wherever I am, because all I am really doing is tuning into what's there. It doesn't matter if there's noise, it doesn't matter what's going on. And that's quite liberating in terms of how you can integrate it into your life. So that's a big myth. And I think also the length of time that you need for it to be effective. So literally, as I said, even 1 minute a day is going to make a difference. And on that, I often liken it to the training of the body. So when we're training the mind in meditation, you can apply similar principles. So, for example, it's the regularity of your practice that's more important than the length of practice. So if I meditated once a fortnight for an hour, that's less beneficial than doing 5 minutes a day. A bit like, if I was going to the gym, I wouldn't go to the gym once a month, have a massive workout and think, cool, that's it, I'm ripped, I'm going to be done for the month. We know that we have to do regular practice. And it is like training. One of the main areas you're training is that prefrontal cortex. So that ability, that executive functioning to be, that's where your pause button is coming from, is that you're there's a Harvard study where they took a group of meditators, and took a group of people and got them to meditate for 30 minutes. And they got a group and they were getting them to read for 30 minutes a day. And what they found in the meditating group is that there were structural changes on the MRI scanning, there were structural changes in the prefrontal cortex. So increased activation and a thickening of that myelin layer, that kind of, that signal conducting layer. So you're literally building a muscle in meditation. And even 3 months later, those changes, whilst obviously not to the same degree, they're still in place. Whereas the reading group, whilst they experience relaxation in the moment, there's no corresponding changes to the way the brain is actually activating. So you're changing that circuitry, building a muscle. And when you invest in that training, just like training your body, it takes time. And at first it feels hard and you don't feel like you can do it, but it becomes like brushing your teeth, that you can make it something that is just part of your life. And that's when the ripple to And once you start connecting to yourself more deeply in that way, you start to tap into creativity and insight and integrating all parts of your brain, not just the logic driven part that we tend to engage and activate and recruit in our sort of structured work lives.
I just want to wear a cynic hat here. So we've been talking like how meditation helps in relation to mental health and well-being, and also you've touched upon the physical aspects. But do you also have any idea like who is it not going to work for?
Well, it depends what your definition of not going to work. Sort of what do you when you think of meditation not working, what would your
let's say I've got stress and then I've tried meditation. I still feel stressed and anxious and depressed. So who would, not really get any benefit out of meditation?
Not you. So I think there's something interesting there in the sense that one of the things we're doing in meditation is we're not trying to get rid of anything. So all we're actually doing is becoming more aware of what's there. And by doing that, it naturally lessens the impact of it. So you're not going to suddenly magically, it's not a magic bullet that you're going to suddenly have no stress. But with regular, consistent practice, anybody and everybody will experience changes to the way that stress is expressing. Now, at first you might feel like, and I've had this with clients. I had a client and she was like, this is just, I still feel like it still feels really difficult. It's just not working. And then over time, things just started to change. And suddenly she had this one day, I remember she messaged me. She's a TV producer in London. She commutes all the time. She's also a property developer. She's got 2 young children, massive stress. And when she first came to me, she was on antidepressants. She was on sleeping for maybe 3 or 4 hours a night. She was surviving on Diet Cokes. And it took time, and she thought that she could feel the benefits in the moment. She's like, I just don't see how this is going to change anything. And then one day she messaged me, and she goes to this same cafe every week, and she works in the cafe for a few hours. And she was in the cafe and she was like, oh wow, they've got new floor. And then she's like, oh, I've got new lighting. Oh wow. And so she sort of noticed, and she spoke to the owner and she said, wow, I love what you've done. And the owner was like, we did that a year ago. And so she was just, for her, she suddenly went, oh my God, it was this real epiphany moment for her of, she suddenly was more present in her own life. And that made her suddenly reflect and think, actually, this is happening to me when I'm on the train platform. This is happening to me when I'm with the kids. Hang on, my mind is right here so much more. And at first, that was the reason she just couldn't. It wasn't like she suddenly became somebody else. It wasn't like she suddenly evolved into the Buddha.
So it's a gradual process.
Yeah, but it's subtle, but the changes are so the shifts, it's more like shifts, and the shifts in perception for her around the power she gave to her thinking, the stories she used to get caught up in about what other people were thinking of her or what she thought of herself. Suddenly she was able to unhook from those because she had this space to see, oh, that's just a voice telling me, oh, you're no good at that. They think they're judging you. So I would argue that there isn't anybody that would experience benefits, but they would just be very different depending on your situation. And also, when you start excavating stress that's been in your system for a long time, there is a sense that, at first that can stir up things that you've stuffed down and not wanted to feel. And so, that can actually, in a way, almost feel worse before it gets better. So I would definitely recommend it, which is part of the reason why I think it works well to have guidance and work with someone when you want to meditate, because you can then work with them to work through that. So sometimes I find that clients might be experiencing resistance in their practice, or they find that it's been going really well, and then suddenly their mind is just suddenly crazy again, or there's just something that's not working. So when we actually talk about it, often what's going on in their meditation is a reflection of something internal that they're working through and processing. And so they get that opportunity to really understand what's happening, which then just it accelerates that whole transformation.
Mhm. Now, for people who haven't tried meditation but are considering of trying meditation, what would be your advice?
So an app that I
Mhm.
recommend is Insight Timer. So it's a free app. It's actually the most used app in the world, actually, for
Mhm.
meditation, but it's 100% free. My meditations are on there as well. And I would recommend just going and literally starting out with
Mhm.
just a 5-minute meditation, and just without expectation of doing anything, just literally sit and just, but take any pressure off
Mhm.
of it needing to feel a certain way. And that would be my advice, is to just make a start. And I can, I can provide you, if anybody's listening wants a download of a meditation, I'm happy to provide a 5-minute meditation to get them started. So
Mhm.
um you know
Yeah, I'll put your link on the video description after this video. You mentioned about the app. Obviously, now we really love apps, but what's the difference between, learning how to meditate with a teacher like yourself and just using an app?
there's a few things. So you know actually, a lot of people that come to me, their kind of gateway drug, if you like, has been Headspace or Calm or whatever. But
Mm,
what they find is that, like I mentioned before, you hit, you, especially when you're changing something,
mm,
you do get resistance, you do get things come up. And
mm,
when you're doing that on your own, it can be hard to know, well, is this right? Am I still, is this supposed to be happening like this? Or is there something I need to do differently? Is this the right style for me? So when you work with a teacher, you actually have the opportunity to really make sure that it's actually going to be effective for you. And the other thing I find when people work with me, or even if they just come to a workshop and then they just become part of the sort of wider community that I have for meditators,
mm,
there's also a group accountability as well, of like being part of something. There's a real sense that it's a bit like being part of a gym or a
mm,
running club. I know for me, I wanted to run for my health, but I knew that I was never going to make myself go and do it. I'd be like, oh, I haven't quite got time now. So I joined
mm.
this running club, and I get a text on a Thursday morning, and it's like, are you coming tonight? And I'm like, oh, yes. And then once I've said yes, I kind of like, oh no, I sort of better go now. So it's like you've got that accountability there, and I think that actually makes a significant difference as well.
Mhm. And for those who want to follow your footsteps, could you give us like a preview of what does it entail to set up a meditation practice?
A personal practice, or as a
A personal
practice,
practice.
personal practice.
Mm,
So in the sense of like how you'd go about making sure you did it, or what sort of thing
mm.
you.
Let's say someone wants to do exactly what you're doing. What does it involve to do what you're doing to have a meditation practice?
Well, the first thing is making a commitment to yourself that you're going to do it,
Hmm.
and starting small.
Hmm.
And the other thing is allowing yourself to feel uncomfortable,
Hmm.
because when you start anything new, you're going to have moments where you feel uncomfortable. And
Hmm.
what you're trying to do in meditation is
Hmm.
allow that to be the case. Allow yourself to just experience what's there, and know that just by sitting, you're making a
Hmm.
difference. Like Deepak Chopra, who I love, him. I love his work. He has this great quote. He says, "The best meditation practice is the one you actually do."
Hmm.
And I think that's great. And that's my advice would be, is make it fit your life exactly as it is.
Hmm.
Don't think that. Where I see people go wrong is they go, right, I'm gonna get up at 5 a.m. I'm gonna get up before everyone. I'm gonna get up, and I'm gonna meditate. I'm gonna make myself meditate for 40
Hmm.
minutes a day, and it's gonna be amazing. And they might do it for a little while, but once that sort of initial willpower is gone, they
Hmm.
haven't managed to establish a habit. So it's much better to recruit your reward-based system, make it feel good, start small, achieve success, and then you will naturally want to continue.
Hmm.
So make it feel good, be kind to yourself when it's tricky, and know that every time you close your eyes, you are making a difference to the way that your brain can process all the stress that we have.
Mhm. Now, Laura, could you just to talk us through how exactly your program at be meditation actually work? How long does it take? Is it a course, and how does exactly it help people?
So it's a 7-session program that's
Mhm.
designed. So the initial stages of that, the first 3 sessions, are really about it's about taking you from whatever your experience level is, giving you the real understanding and knowledge and techniques, and really embedding and helping you understand how to meditate. And then we move it. Then the last half of the program moves into transforming how you experience your life. So
Mhm.
that's where we look at using meditation to change how you think, to look at how you're thinking about your life,
Mhm.
change your relationships with your thinking, and redefining what happiness is, so that you can actually, it can be something achievable in your life. And
Mhm.
then connecting into yourself in a more consistent way. So, and throughout, we look at the science of exactly what's happening. So everything from the neuroscience of what's happening in the brain to the quantum physics of
Mhm.
how it works. Now, not for its own sake, not just because, but because actually by building this layered understanding, it really helps to embed the practice. So that 7-session program, I tend to meet with people fortnightly, as if it's one-to-one. I do have an online program as well. So I do kind of run group programs online. And then once somebody's finished the program, they then join my community. And so once a month we have a group a group meditation. Either I have an online one and an in-person one. And in that session, we pull out one strand of the theory of what we've covered in the course, as well as one strand of, like, I suppose, a practice technique. So maybe it's something, that a common thing that people are struggling with, or something about how to make your practice better. And we, in that workshop, in those community workshops, we actually revisit those things and give you, so that's where that accountability comes in. And then once a month there's a Q&A, an online Q&A, so people can troubleshoot their practice, keep
Mhm.
motivated. So the short answer is there's a 7-session program and then an ongoing lifetime community. So once somebody learns to meditate with me,
Mhm.
I will support you for life. So that's my commitment to the people that I work with.
I really like the idea that you're not just offering a course, but it's really, you're creating a community within people of, interested about meditation. Now, let's move away from meditation a bit. Aside from meditation, what do you do for self-care?
So for me, see, I think of self-care as being a really broad thing. So for me, there's a few pillars to that. So I know that I need to get outside. So so I suppose my daily routine, if I describe my daily routine, so in the morning, my kind of commitment to myself is that I do tend to get up before everybody else, because I know that works for me and it works in my life. So I get up and I have a commitment of like my minimum commitment to myself is 3 sun salutations, which is like a yoga sequence,
Mhm.
which is like, often I'll do more, but my minimum commitment to myself is I'll just get on the mat and I will just do 3. And then if I feel like doing more, then I'm already there.
Mhm.
I also journal. So I just do like a free writing journal where I don't, not with any structure, I just write whatever comes into my mind. I do 2 pages and then I do my meditation practice. So that's my morning. And I am a big believer in fueling my body the right way. So I tend to make sure that I have a really nutritious breakfast.
Mhm.
So I like porridge with the addition of, I don't know, all sorts of different things to make it like
Mhm.
protein packed and everything. And then I try and be really thoughtful about the way that I fuel my body, because I know that when I don't do that, my body, everything has to be in balance. And so it's about what I put in, and I spend time. I always walk every day and make sure, come rain or shine, because being outside is really important to me. And I try and the usual things of trying to spend time with friends and family.
Mhm.
Like anyone, you wax and wane with how balanced you are. And one of the things that actually meditation has gifted me is the ability to notice the patterns in my own life and notice when I'm not on track. And in fact, a couple of months ago, I realized that my self-care had slipped. I was not giving myself enough time, and I was working too much, and but I was able to really notice and start taking steps to bring it back in line. And I think that's for all of us. It's like this backwards and forwards, and just staying aware, tuning into yourself, and doing the things you need, and actually trusting that you know what you need in any moment, and that you have to just commit to yourself to get to do it. But that's taken a long journey to get to that point.
Now, you mentioned on one of your tips that the importance of being mindful, but if there's one thing that people could do to be more mindful today, what would it be?
Well, there's a few ways that you can, because really the best type of habit building is one where you kind of it's a habit that you already have. So for example, if you make a cup of tea in the morning or during your day, can you commit to once a day not doing anything else while the kettle's boiling? So you literally just stand while the kettle's boiling, and that just allows you to and just feel your body. Just literally tune into your feet on the floor, feeling your hands, feeling your breath. Nothing fancy, just as simple as that. Or Thich Nhat Hanh, who's was a spiritual teacher, he would say, when your phone rings, don't answer it till the third ring, and use the first three rings as a mindful moment. And just little things. And somebody said to a client the other day that she was told, use a doorway as a threshold. So whenever you walk through a doorway, just see that as a cue to just check in. It's as simple as checking in. Where is my body right now? Where am I? Like, that's all mindfulness is. It's paying attention on purpose. So choosing where you put your attention in the present moment without judgment. And that judgment bit is the bit where we start to notice when we have a meditation practice how much we have that voice saying, oh, this isn't good enough, or that's not good enough, or judging the people around us. And we can start to become aware and actually just drop into, well, how is it right this moment?
Thank you for this wonderful tips, Laura. Now, for my final question, how can we get in touch with you? Are you on social media?
Yes, I am. So I'm on Instagram and Facebook at be.modern meditation. And my website is be.modernmeditation.com, and there's lots of resources on there, and you can download an ebook which tells you all about my program, and you can also download a 5-minute meditation. And when you sign up to the newsletter, you receive some tips to get you started. You get a free meditation, and and I'm always up for questions. So I'm a meditation geek. I love talking all these meditations. So
I can
anytime. Yeah.
And you mentioned about your ebook. Is that a free ebook?
The free ebook. It's basically so you can see exactly what I've been talking about, like how the program works and what meditation does. It's got a little bit more in there about meditation. So
Laura, thank you for sharing with us your passion and your expertise about meditation. But unfortunately, our time is up. I look forward to hearing more about your work, and all the best.
Thanks, Dennis.